But once you are one person, as Alex said, it's completely easy to do everything yourself. Once you're 3 people, you start communicating. And once you are 10, you need to first set up the first processes. With 30, it goes much more complicated, and this goes on with that speed. So basically, what you always need to keep in mind as a founder is that since the company is growing at certain periods of time, you need to rethink all processes and things you're actually doing within the company from scratch.
Coming to you from WHU on the banks of the Rhine River in beautiful Vallendar, Germany. This is the best and most awesome founder podcast. A show about entrepreneurs, innovators, advisors, and educators, and the stories that make them who they are today.
Stan and Alex, welcome to the Awesome Founder podcast. Great that you had time for joining us. Now, it's actually great that we have 2 founders of the same company here in the room. That gives it a bit of a special dynamic, which I always like. And given that both of you are here, I think a nice question to start off in this podcast is about how actually you 2 guys met. I know you both have a background as being both students from WHU, but as I understood, you did not be a part of the same cohort. So was WHU the place where you met, or did you actually meet somewhere else?
I can take this one. Yeah,
Yes.
Thanks a lot for having us first. Great to be here and talk about Emily and our journey. Stan and I didn't meet at WHU, funnily enough, even though we were there at the same time.
Okay.
I was doing my bachelor's degree and Stan his master's. We might have seen each other, but we met afterwards while we were doing an internship at the venture capital fund. That's basically how we met.
Okay. And was there immediately a special spark between the 2 of you to kind of have the feeling like I need to work together with this guy to create a startup, or was it something that slowly built over time?
That's an interesting question. I never thought about it in so much detail, but I believe it was a process. I mean, Stan and I, we were sitting next to each other at the fund. We were working together, and of course, we realized pretty soon that we get along well and that we like to work together. Also personally, we were going out after work and
Okay.
enjoying the intern life.
Yes.
As you do when you're in a venture capital fund, you talk a lot about different business models, and we like the way we think about business and how we analyze different models. And that's when the idea came up. Okay, why don't we do something together?
Yeah. And Stan, was there for you a specific reason why you thought it would be great to do something with Alex together? And it feels now a bit like a dating show, but
Yes, it is. It
I
does.
mean, so I'm always intrigued by how do you choose your co-founder? So was there a specific reason why you felt kind of attracted to Alex from a business perspective, then I would say?
It's a very interesting question, but I think it was more a process, and I completely agree with Alex. So what I think helped us to find each other in terms of entrepreneurial journey is that we had the same vision, right? So we both had the idea that at some point in life we want to be founders and want to do our own business, and it's excited us from the first day, basically. And even though we've been at a time at a venture capital fund, for us it was just a learning time and learning period of time where we wanted to learn as much as we can, but later on someone to start our own company. And what helped us is that I think this vision, it was really nice actually to have an idea. Okay, we both want to do it. The second is that our interests in terms of doing business were very similar too. So both of us wanted to go into consumer goods because it's excited us to have your product in your hand, and it's like it's something cool. You can say, okay, look at this. It's something we have created together. And then I think everything else was more or less a process of how we tackled it. So we said, okay, if we wanted to do it at some point, why don't we start doing it now? Then we started discussing about different markets and what we like to do in terms of product category. Then we figured out, okay, pet is such a cool category to look at. And we both grew up with pets, so we had a kind of connection to it already.
Okay.
I've been at another VC firm and had some insights into pets too. And then at the current fund where we did the internship, we had also some encounters with pets, and we were like, okay, this is something pretty cool, and maybe we should, do our research and dig deeper and talk to customers and or like potential customers and users. Yeah, and this basically helped us to kind of the vision and the category kind of bound us together and give us, let's say, the first push to do it.
Yeah. And of course, immediately we will talk more about mammally and so the pet category that you have chosen. Maybe I just want to briefly touch upon something that you said, because you were saying, look, we share a particular vision. And that's actually a word that I often hear when I talk with founders, the importance of having a shared vision. At the same time, it's quite an abstract word. So could you maybe explain a bit more what that for you meant, this shared vision? What you say was the kind of essence of this shared vision that you and Alex shared?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alex, you can adjust and make comments, of course. But for me, meaning having a vision is meaning to have a particular goal where you don't really have a perfect plan for it yet. Yeah, but there's something quite abstract which touches you emotionally. Yeah. For us, it was like entrepreneurship, which excited us. So we kind of, you could always see when we talked about business models and startups that our eyes lightened up talking about it. And and this vision you're completely right. It's quite an abstract word. But I think the more you think about it, the more you feel that it's something more very individual and emotional. Yeah. And if something touches your emotions and it's something, let's say, so far in the future that excites you, that's probably can be defined as a vision. And if you both have, let's say, the sparks in your eyes and this plan also, which is maybe not perfectly defined yet, but intention to do it, I think that's something it's really, really helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Alex, would you agree, or would you add something to that?
Yeah, I would agree. I believe we were sharing the same vision in two ways. The vision personally of becoming entrepreneurs, and secondly, the business vision of building a product that people love and that people can hold in their hands. And having these shared visions and these shared ideas then brought us together and made us very excited about the opportunity of building a company in this space.
Yeah, and so in the end, in 2020, the two of you decided to co-found Mammally, so a company that mainly provides kind of healthy products for pets and more specifically dogs. Can you explain a bit more, Alex, why you decided to start this company? What was the kind of pain point that you observed that, according to you and Stan, needed to be solved?
So we noticed that pets develop problems during their lifespans. And when we looked deeper into the data, we saw that a huge amount of number of pets is actually suffering from different problems. More than 80% of dogs over 8 develop joint issues. More than 80% of dogs over 3 develop dental issues. More than 50% are overweight, and the list goes on and on. And we were wondering, okay, why are there no easy and simple solutions to help pet owners with these problems? And basically started talking to dog owners in order to understand it deeper and get a better feeling for the pain point. And once we clarified, okay, there's a real need for a product that solves these issues in an easy and comfortable way, that's when we came across supplements for pets, which is a very new category for us humans. It's also widely used, I think more than 50% of Europeans use supplements on a regular basis.
Okay.
But for pets, it's still new. And what we saw is, okay, often trends from humans are replicated towards their pets. It's what we call humanization in the industry. So we thought, okay, it's just a matter of time until supplements also become relevant for pets, and they are an easy and nice way to solve these health issues, which by then could only be solved by visiting the veterinarian or by buying medical products. So we saw a gap in the market, we saw a big pain point, and we saw a way from the human category which could be replicated to pets.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And Stan, I saw on the website that you quite heavily emphasize this collaboration with vets, so the doctors for the animals. Can you explain a bit more why this kind of collaboration with veterinarians is so important for you guys?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Usually it is like this, that the category where we are involved is a very new category, right? So there's a lot of education to do, and veterinarians are still an important, important party who is like shaping the meaning and shaping also the market and the pet industry. So what we are doing in that terms is that we are, first of all, in really close contact with vets. We have veterinarians in-house who are supporting us in the product development process, but also in the consultation of customers when it comes to questions to nutrition, but also regular questions they have. We have also a televet service where basically every customer, and not only customer, but everybody could actually join and ask questions and set up an appointment. So we have a lot of knowledge in-house, but for us it's also important to talk to industry experts in our field. And here we talk to different universities, who are really on the edge of scientific research. That's why, like, all of our products are based on knowledge we could gain from different sources, and mainly, of course, from external veterinarians and experts who are like leading in Europe and are supporting us and helping to build the best product possible when it comes to effectiveness, but also taste, which is super important for pets too, right? And also for humans, actually, it's the same. Taste of the product has to be good. No.
Okay. And can you give maybe a concrete example of how of a project for which you work together with universities? What kind of projects do I have to think about?
Yeah, well, the simplest one is new product development. So once we have identified the needs of the customer and the needs of the pets, so basically looking at data from researchers, external researchers, but also looking at customer behavior and requests on, I don't know, Google or Amazon or other sources. We know exactly what kind of problem we want to tackle. Then we take this idea. We have an internal product development team who knows what is the right form of the product to be. So often it's actually the chew. Yeah, that's like the snack format. Once we know this, we basically select the right ingredients to tackle those specific problems. And here we try to have a wide variety of different ingredients who can tackle the issue from different aspects. Because often, if you think about joint issues, for example, there are different mechanisms behind it, why a dog develops certain kind of problem, so to say, health problem, and you can tackle this issue from different angles. Yeah, so that's why we look for the ingredients who have the highest effectiveness on that field, and then we discuss it basically with universities, what their feedback is in terms of bioactivity of the product, in terms of the actual effectiveness, the actual research on the research papers, because often if you're not so deep in the research field, you need a little bit of background to understand what the research paper actually mean, right? the behind it, because research can be done in different ways. Yeah? And you also, because those people have much more touch points with those ingredients, they often can give us first-hand experience, which they have gained with their customers and people who actually ask them specific problems. And then basically, once we summarize all this knowledge, we bring it back to our product development team. We differentiate the recipe, and then we try to make the product happen, so to say, on the machine.
Okay, but that also means that you two guys need to kind of develop quite an in-depth knowledge of this whole kind of industry, not about what kind of ingredients could help to address particular diseases. How did you become kind of an expert in that, Alex? Can you maybe say something about it?
I wouldn't call myself an expert in that. I mean, there are people that spend years in university studying this kind of stuff. But we were learning a lot and learning also in the process. I think the health of dogs and the pet category, something we are really passionate about and something that we enjoy working with. So it was easy to gain knowledge and to use this knowledge. But from day one, we have been working with experts that helped us developing really good products. And I think we wouldn't be able doing it all by ourselves.
Yeah. And because I saw, for instance, on Glassdoor that you're even hiring now vets for the company, not? So that you really want to have this kind of expertise in-house to use it for new product development.
We actually already have veterinarians as part of the team.
Okay.
Also a full-time employee. But we want to further leverage the expertise of veterinarians and enlarge the team in that sense. So we're looking for someone.
Okay, perfect. And in the end, as I understand it, your business model is what we call a direct-to-consumer business model, where people can order the products on your website. They can also take a kind of subscription if they want. Can you maybe explain a bit why you decided for this business model? Because you could also take the decision to have your products in big pet shops or to take an alternative approach. Why was this approach attractive for you guys?
In the beginning, the direct-to-consumer business model seemed like the logical first channel for us because we wanted to be very close to the customer and really understand their needs.
Yeah.
The problem with retail, I mean, retail is a big channel and a lot of pet customers still shop offline.
Yeah.
So this is also highly relevant. But you're not in direct contact with the customer as it's a B2B to C model in that sense, right? So yeah, the direct-to-consumer model was the logical first step as we want to be close to the customer, as it's relatively easy to set up. And to be honest, in the beginning, as a new brand, you're a nobody, right?
Yeah.
And the big retailers will struggle listing someone that doesn't have any brand awareness and any traction. So direct-to-consumer was great to learn a lot about the customer needs, to also innovate the product. And now, luckily, we are also moving into new channels and also moving into retail. Now that we have a certain brand awareness and are established within the market, now that there's already demand for our products, the retailers are also asking us if they can list a Memely. So this is a more favorable position to be in.
Yeah.
Also with the current market environment, becoming an omni-channel brand and also moving into retail seems to be the right way to go.
Yeah, okay. So that's really part of the strategy to take this omni-channel strategy where you do both D2C but also sell the products via retail. Okay. Clear.
Exactly.
Yeah. And maybe because you were both mentioning already quite heavily the importance of a good relationship management with your customer. You need to really understand the customer. You need to know what they like about your product, what they maybe don't like. Stan, can you maybe talk a bit more about your approach in that respect. So how do you guys try to have a really in-depth understanding about the customer needs, the customer feedback? How do you approach that in general?
Yeah. So I think the best recipe is to have a good customer support team. So a team which literally can not only tackle the problem of the customer, but also is able to translate the problems back into operational business tasks within the company. And there we gain a lot of feedback in terms of packaging, in terms of unboxing experience, but also on the product itself in terms of taste of the product and the effectiveness and stuff like this. However, what we are doing is we, since I think half a year now, we started to automate this process. We basically use quite sophisticated BI tools by analyzing all the incoming requests and using some AI techniques to match this input and figure out what is the best business decision to kind of make the work for the customer support team also a bit easier, but also for us as a business team to make it a bit more structured. On the other hand, what we also like to do is honestly just talking to the customer himself. So doing research on one-on-one basis. So calling the customer is the best way to do it. Be prepared, of course, but also have your hypothesis you wanted to test and do it on a one-on-one basis, because often customers complain, but maybe it is a little bit of a more the emotional point of view, and it's not the actual problem which is behind it. And often it's a matter of communication, which we have to do better, because often a lot of things are already considered, but maybe the customer just does not really perceive it that way we perceive it. So this is, let's say, the two different tools we use: input customer data, but also we go out to the customer himself and talking to him directly.
Yeah, and you mentioned hypothesis testing, which gets a bit of a trigger in my head, because that's something that we also try to learn our students, that's very important to do hypothesis testing, especially in the initial stages of startups, when you're still kind of clarifying the assumptions that you have and try to kind of quickly determine what is the best way to go. Can you maybe give some concrete examples of what kind of hypotheses you guys are testing and how you do it? Is it that you do A/B experiments, or have alternative approaches?
Yeah, I think in the early stages of Mammally, and this is a little bit of, let's say, historical insights here, it's exactly what we've done. So we had a long list on hypotheses we wanted to test, which were important for the product, but also for the business case. And then we used... we basically talked on the customer side. We had a Facebook group actually, which is still existing. So you can go on the Mammally on Facebook on our Mammally page and go to Hundegesundheit, so dog health, and we are probably the number one Facebook group for that topic. But we founded this group and we started talking to customers and started asking them direct questions. So, for example, I don't know, how important is taste for you, and then they had to rank it basically. Do you buy products on stock so that you have a little bit of treasure box, so to say, at home? So to understand how the customer actually behaves when it comes to, for us, it was in the beginning treats, but now we do, of course, supplements, which is a bit more sophisticated, of course, approach to it. But basically, just finding the right channel to your customers is the best way, and talking to them, it's probably the easiest way to do it. And right now, of course, it's a little bit more complicated, so we do a lot of A/B tests on the website. I mean, Alex can give them with more insights, but we have a A/B test funnel basically, where we test assumptions when it comes to conversion rate of the shop, when it comes to communication of the brand on the shop. It's a little bit more technical, but in the initial stage, it was literally finding your customer, asking him questions, interview him, try to figure out whether you're on the right track or not, and try to connect the dots basically. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's nerd out a bit and talk about this A/B experiment funnel, because that sounds very intriguing, I have to say. Alex, can you explain a bit more what you are exactly doing there?
I mean, we run a lot of A/B tests all the time, and there's a lot of different hypotheses that we test on the website. I mean, there are two main growth levers for us as a direct to consumer business. The one side is a new customer revenue, and the other side the retention revenue of existing customers.
Yeah.
And in both of these segments, we continuously run tests, ideally to acquire new customers or to increase lifetime value, right?
Can you give maybe an example of a very specific experiment that you guys are doing? Do I need to think about, is it about the color of the website, or what kind of stuff are you testing?
We realize that the color often doesn't make a big difference.
Okay.
And of course, we have been also running a lot of little tests, but at the end, we also like to test bigger hypotheses. What we have been recently doing is, if you go to one of our product pages of one specific supplement, we were testing the pre-selection of a subscription. So the customer at Memly has the option to buy our product as a one-time purchase or as a subscription. And initially, one-time purchase was pre-selected. And we had the hypothesis, if we knew that subscribers have a much better lifetime value than non-subscribers. That's logical, right? Yeah. So we were testing, okay, if we pre-select subscribers, do we gain enough more subscribers in relation to lost one-time purchasers? Because people sometimes, if they see the subscription is pre-selected, they won't buy at all.
Yeah.
That this additional lifetime value that we generate compensates the one-time purchases.
Yeah.
So this was the test we were running. I hope this was not too much in detail for the listeners.
No. I think it's interesting to hear how you approach it.
Yeah. But those are like some of the tests that we do, and where we try to sharpen the business model, improve conversion rate, and in this case, grow the lifetime value of our cohorts.
And can you maybe remember an hypothesis that you tested at the beginning as quite a fundamental assumption that after testing you found out that completely didn't make any sense, that you had to kind of drastically change your opinion about a certain part of your business model or your product?
So we didn't do a hard pivot, I would say, where we were completely wrong with one of our big hypotheses. I can't think of anything right now. Stan, do you have one of? Oh. I have another thing that we tested in the beginning, which is prices. I think that's something that every business owner, especially also in e-commerce, should spend time on testing. And in e-commerce, of course, it's easy to test, right? It's easy to change the prices. And we realized that people are willing to spend money on the health of their pets. This also led to the decision to go with a very premium positioning of the product and of the brand, because when testing different price points, we realized that there's some elasticity, and people basically like to support the health of their pets with premium products. We wouldn't have realized this if we didn't test different price points.
Because that's something I also discuss heavily with my students, how to kind of test willingness to pay. And I think what you shouldn't do is simply ask people like, oh, how much would you be willing to pay? Because actually sometimes people underestimate how much they're willing to pay. I think especially for this kind of emotional products, like supplements for your pets to make them healthier. Can you tell a bit more about how you actually try to find out willingness to pay?
Yeah. Basically, when we started all in the beginning, we listed the product at different price points.
Okay.
Let's just make it as an assumption. We put the product for 19 euros, 29, 39, and 49. That was the range where we thought, okay, this is what people could be willing to pay for a supplement for pets. At some price points, we didn't see any difference. So
No.
we saw, for instance, 19 euros was converting as well as 29 euros.
Yeah.
So it made sense to go for a higher price, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, all of this is hypothetical. The test was a little bit more complex, and but still, that was how we proceeded.
Yeah, but the principle was like we experimented with different price settings, looked at the conversion, and if we saw that an increase in price did not lead to a decrease in conversion, you actually had an indication that the willingness to pay might actually be higher than what you initially expected.
Exactly, and it's a real life test setup, so it's real data. And I think it's also funny what you mentioned earlier, asking the customers, because we did in the beginning.
Okay.
We realized that in the end, customers want, of course, all the features, all the product features. They want organic, they want this, they want that, but they want the lowest price, right? And this simply isn't viable from a business perspective, even though we always try to offer the best product, the best price, right? But sometimes customers want too much and want to pay too little.
And maybe, Stan, just to kind of wrap up this kind of topic about how to manage relationship with your customers. Of course, today we have the whole kind of generative AI revolution with ChatGPT and other tools that are rapidly emerging. Are you guys trying to leverage that kind of tools in one way or another to further increase your customer understanding?
Yes, definitely. And I can advise everybody to do it too, yeah? So jumping on new technologies is always very beneficial. And I think that makes also our startup, a better business model from my point of view, because you can adapt really fast, and you should do it if you have the chance to do it. So what we are doing is actually also on the customer side. First of all, we're going into a better customer experience by using AI technology also to automate our processes within the customer support team. So being fast to your consumer, we figured out it's extremely important to have a really good first touch point, and it has to be on the solution side. So not checking in, that you received your email, but to give the first points towards the solution to the consumer. And we are working on this response time, first touch point time, using AI technology to be much faster on that side, to figuring out what are the best problems we should focus on. The system gives us suggestions, what kind of problems to tackle first, to be as fast as possible, and which problems you should do a little later, or there's a second level support required or something like this. It's quite automated already.
Yeah, okay. So you're really delving into these kind of new topics to automate and speed up your interaction with customers. Okay,
definitely.
Great. Now, last year, I actually don't know if you know, but Glassdoor had this kind of ranking of the 100 fastest growing startups in Germany, and you guys were on that list. So you were seen as one of the fastest growing startups in Germany, which is nice, of course. I think growth is always a good indicator. But I think it also triggers challenges, because if you have to grow fast, that triggers new challenges, new problems to address. Based on your kind of current experiences, what would you see as the most challenging part of managing as a founder a fast-growing company? Alex, what would be your kind of opinion here? So if you get up in the morning, what is the first kind of problem that you're thinking about nowadays?
I mean, we grew quickly, like from 0 to almost 50 employees in 2 years, and there were a lot of challenges which are still present right now, which we have to tackle. I mean, for us as first-time founders, we had a limited experience in a manager and management,
Yeah.
and I feel it's also a challenge for me personally, to improve my management skills, to become a better a leader while running also part of the operations, which we are still doing. So I think that's one side, and the other side is from an organizational perspective, creating an organization that people still feel as one team, right? Especially building the whole company remote.
Yeah.
In the beginning, if it's 10 or 20 people, you can still talk to everyone on a weekly basis or very regularly. But once you hit this 30, 40, 50 people mark, you have to create systems that keep people together and that keep people aligned to work towards the same goals. So we have started this last year, and this is also one of the main focuses for us this year, to implement good management systems, like OKRs, a good vision, mission, the values of our culture, but also other communication formats like really solid all hands, good management weeklies, QBRs, and updating the team also constantly on where we are at in terms of the achievement of our goals. All of this has to be done
Yeah.
in order to keep a fast-growing team together, and in order to ensure that we are working towards the same goals. And I have to say, it's a process. We have also changed formats a couple of times. We are constantly also trying to improve our systems. But I'm happy to say that also we make big steps into the right direction, and I'm glad where we are right now.
Can you give an example of a kind of shift in formats that you have made? So where did you feel the need to shift formats?
I mean, we always had an all hands since the beginning, but of course, this had to be professionalized. And in the beginning, everyone was able to say what they are currently doing, right? And then we had to create different departments. We had to completely revise the structure of the all hands. At some point of time, it's not possible that every department gets their share of voice in every all hand, right?
Yeah.
And at some point of time, we decided, okay, the all hands, it's not a reporting meeting for the whole company, but it's a meeting to energize everyone and to bring the culture alive and to align everyone on the vision and mission. So this is basically the process for us, how the all hands changed over time, and I believe it will still be changing.
Yeah. Stan, do you have anything to add in terms of challenges that you're experiencing on a daily basis?
Yeah. I would like to add maybe a slightly different angle on what Alex is already saying, that if you grow, I think it's a very, very cool rule you should always consider as a startup founder. And this is the rule of 3 and 10. It's a rule by CEO of Rakuten. I don't exactly remember the name of this guy, but it's an extremely important rule, and it basically helps you to navigate growth. So once you are one person, as Alex said, it's completely easy to do everything yourself. Once you're 3 people, you start communicating. And once you are 10, you need to first set up the first processes. With 30, it goes much more complicated, and this goes on with that speed. So basically, what you always need to keep in mind as a founder is that since the company is growing at certain periods of time, you need to rethink old processes and things you're actually doing within the company from scratch. And it starts with the communication. For us, communication formats, for example, is the best example. At the beginning, it was more a reporting setup, as Alex said. But then we realized, okay, we have now about 40, 50 people. And the people are most of them they don't really want to know in detail what every department is doing, because they're here just to see each other. They want to communicate, and they want also to see us as a founder being this figure and somebody who has a plan what we're actually doing. So that's why we shifted it towards more like strategy meeting, towards deep dives into different categories, and making it much more, actually bringing more meat to the bone of the whole company, so that people have a feeling that we as a company are going to the right direction, what Alex and Stan are actually saying, so to say. And in daily operations, it's a lot of communication also. For me personally, it was setting up proper one-on-ones. So really working on these formats basically every month, to understand, okay, is this the right format for your direct report? Do you cover all things you want to cover? You feel that the person you're talking to and who's working in your team is doing the things they should do, or should working? Are they happy meanwhile? So there's a lot of asking, and feeling between the lines and between the explicit communication. And I think a one-on-one format can help you to kind of zoom out and to reflect what is actually happening, and giving the people the right impulses, getting the right impulses for feedback to your business, and then push the thing forward.
Okay. And I was quite also intrigued what Alex was saying, like, okay, we had to kind of get up to speed in terms of management and leadership skills. And then I was thinking like, but actually you both spent time at WHU at a business school. Would that not be exactly what you should have learned at WHU in terms of skills that you need to have? Yeah. So maybe just as a reflection, what would you think are the things that you have learned at WHU that help you? And what are things, if you look back, that you missed at WHU that you would have liked to have that would be really helpful in managing this kind of trajectories?
Good question. I think there's one thing actually I learned, and I really still remember talking about it and thinking about it, is that we had a lecture about strategy, actually, and strategy execution. Mm-hmm. I think it's called the lecture. And we basically dig deep into, okay, once you have a strategy, how do you actually set it up and communicate to the whole team so that everybody's aligned and everybody knows what to do? And I'm still thinking of processes to execute it properly, and it's definitely something as a first touch point, how to think about strategy. And then of course often you always develop as a founder, think, and as a leader also, your own strategies and your own processes, right? But then at least you know where you can go back and look up, let's say, the literature, look up the theory, and then make it, of course, adapt to your own style and to your own company. To reflecting on that, I'm not sure what could be done better. Maybe, but actually, WHU is doing a pretty good job in terms of if somebody wants to start their own company, there's a lot of opportunities to try out yourself on product market fit, or like pitching even. You have quite a good network, so I don't know, Alex. Do you have any thoughts on where WHU could have supported us?
Alex, you were in The Bachelor. What did you miss in The Bachelor?
Yeah.
Maybe I just picked the wrong courses, because I think it's already there, and there's so many good tools, infrastructure, and network that students can choose from. And for me, when I was at university, of course, I had entrepreneurship in mind as one of my ultimate goals, but I was preparing for different journeys and thought I would go into entrepreneurship at a later point of time. Yeah. So I didn't properly use the WHU infrastructure at that time to an extent that it would have helped me more in my entrepreneurial journey now.
Yeah, but maybe on a broader level, because indeed it's not WHU specific, but on a broader level, if based on your experiences in the past 2 years, and if I would come to you and say to you, I want to get input in how we can kind of improve the course offerings at WHU to really prepare our students to become good entrepreneurs? What kind of courses would you suggest?
Maybe one from my side to suggest is a big learning was actually this, organizational structure, and it is like scaling companies from one person, or from two person if you have two co-founders, scaling it like to the first 100 employees. This is an incredible difficult journey because like a lot of companies, and that most of the companies are actually failing at this stage, because at that time you need not only to deliver a good product market fit, but also be able to set up the organization in a way that it can actually grow. And you can do a lot of mistakes, which then would be called legacy. And in order to avoid this, you can do a lot of things. So for example, like setting up proper communication processes. And like for us, it was a learning to, one-on-ones is important, like weekly business reviews, monthly business reviews, quarterly business reviews, OKRs. This is a part of, I would say, of course, it's strategy, and of course, it's like operations as well. But in the end, it's a big part of it is also communication, and making it right, bringing the information into the right format that it reaches the person it needs to reach. And that's incredibly difficult to break down. But I think those companies who succeed are definitely the ones who have this in place. I don't know if it's that the recipe for success, but it's definitely, if they're succeeding, they have that 100% in place. So I would suggest like organizational structure and communication would be one course I could suggest. Alex.
No, when we some podcasts ago, we talked with Jack Singh and Oliver Aust, who just published a book called The Message Machine. And it's a whole book about how can startups, if they go from seed stage to growth stage, actually manage their communications, because that's also, according to them, one of the core aspects that you need to manage in a company if you want to become successful. So it's nice to see that you also resonate at that point. And I would agree that it's typically something that in business schools in general, I think we don't pay that much attention to. And it's more about the strategic stuff, which is also important, but actually how do you communicate in the end to your employees these core issues is something I think we maybe don't spend enough time on. I think you have a good point there. Okay, also given the time, I want to just end with some brief questions that we always do, just also to get a bit the person behind the founder. So what we always ask is, do you have any suggestions for our audience in terms of books that they could read or podcasts that they can listen to? And it don't have to be business books, business podcasts, it can be, but you can also go broader if some particular books or podcasts have inspired you. Do you have any suggestions? Maybe Alex, can I start with you?
Yeah. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but in the beginning I was listening to other founders from the pet and direct-to-consumer space, and I thought this was quite helpful, and there was so much knowledge we could gain from this. A book which I recently enjoyed reading was Peak Performance, which is about self-optimization and also about how to grow as a person in business and life, and how to handle a lot of stress, and also the importance of doing breaks and recovering from these phases of high stress. I think that's something that's also very, very important as a founder. It's quite intense, especially in the beginning, and you're only able to reach peak performance and the best version of yourself if you take these breaks and also have time to reflect on what you're doing.
And can you maybe very briefly give some concrete examples of what you try to do? Because as mentioned, you're in this very kind of, I would not call it stressful, but a demanding position where you more and more have to take this leadership role. At the same time, you're still involved in operations, you're growing quickly. So I think it's a demanding role that you have today. So how do you deal with these issues about making sure that there's still a kind of healthy balance? Do you have specific tactics that you're using?
So I think sleep is extremely important, and I always try to get enough sleep, and try to use the time before I sleep and I wake up to calm down, and to in the mornings also to prime myself for a successful day. I think this really made a difference for me. And what's also really important for me is to find a balance in sports and with friends, also to take a day off on the weekend and don't do any work. I think these things are essential, because entrepreneurship is a marathon, and it's a long journey that take years, and it's not possible to do a sprint for 5, 7, or 10 years. So it's really about finding the balance, and having activities outside of work.
And I suppose you also take some supplements, given what you're what you're selling.
Of course.
Okay. Stan, did you have any suggestions for books or podcasts that you want to share?
In terms of podcasts, like if you are into like startup and D2C, it's definitely, I would say, OMR podcast. So they always like invite interesting people from different businesses, often CEOs, who explain the journey and also share the experiences and give often some ideas, and hints. In terms of books, I think I would suggest two, because I think it's slightly different. One is From Founder to CEO. It's a really interesting book, actually, written from I think a German lady, as far as I remember. Basically summarizing how you as a founder make a transition at some point in time when the company grows. In the beginning, you are the founder and you do everything yourself. You're a founder time, you have an idea, you execute it. But at some point, like slowly, the transition goes into a more CEO position. And I think this transition is extremely difficult because a lot of people like stay founder, or they're actually more CEO profiles, and this is really important to understand this balance and also this transition if you want to do it. One of the key points for me there, I'm in the middle of it basically, but is to time your reflections, and set up proper goals for yourself, not only for the business, but also for yourself, and make work on yourself, So it's often we are really intuitively driven by doing things, but it's really important to do it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, depending on the topic. But sit down and reflect on your things you've done and set the goals for the next one. I think it's a really, really interesting hint. But there are many more in there in this book. And I could suggest like From Founder to CEO. And the second one is, I think it's a bit more broader, is From Good to From Good to Great. Which is the book from Jim Collins. I think a lot of people know it. It's a little bit more like high level, but I think once you progress in the career as a founder or as a startup, it's really important to look into those things, because often we are more really pulled into operational things, and it's really important to reflect on, is your business still on track or not? And then, of course, be able to properly communicate. Then we're back to the topic of communication, and then set it up and execute. So From Good to Great and From Founder to CEO.
No, I think the book of Jim Collins is, I think, a book that also a lot of the very famous founders have on their bed shelf. So it has been quite an influential book, I would say. So that's indeed a very nice recommendation. Okay, guys, I think we have to end it here, because it would be great to talk much more about how you do these A/B experiments. And it's quite a nerdy topic that I really like, but we should not bore the audience too much with it. So thanks for sharing these insights. Thanks for kind of giving a bit of a perspective of what you're doing in the company. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope our audience can also learn something from it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dries.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for having me.
So then we can end the session here. And for the audience, if you liked this episode, please don't forget to give us a good rating on your favorite podcast platform. That always helps us. And we hope we will see you again next time for the next episode. Bye.